Now, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
Yeah. Roberta in the truth zone, mic hitting raw. Spotlight shining, she exposing the flaw. Debunking the myth, breaking their facade. This is Glass City, respect the squad. On these NYC blocks where the skyline flex big. Roberta Glass slicing lies with a truth rig. Innocence frosters, your stories unravel. She's a map through the madness of gritty gravel. Glass don't bend and facts don't break. She's a storm that's called, you feel the quake. Exposing tales stitched with crooked seams. Justice in the lens, shattered fake dreams. Screams about killers, painted heroes in disguise. She burning propaganda with fire in her eyes. No glamour for the guilty, she call it straight. She backs victims, the voice stay awake. Stats and receipts, no spin, no clutter. Cold cases whisper, she cuts through the mutter. Truth's her tempo, don't confuse the beat. She's standing for the real while you taking a seat. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. She's glass hard, break the false and save the day. True crime's a block, facts the artillery. Spinning those lies, yo, she checks that misery. Tabloid tales get smashed,
no time to play. Tabloid tales get smashed, no time to play. Hello, Rockstar 60. Hello, everybody. Brody, Megan, Scorpio Moon Gal, Candy. Hello. I wanted to go over the closing arguments are tomorrow in Karen Reed's trial. We had a jury charge conference today, meaning what are the jury instructions? What are they going to be told? Strangely, Commonwealth doesn't seem to be asking for a consciousness of guilt instruction. And the defense can't do third party, can't argue third party. They can argue it vaguely. But they're going to do a Bowden defense, meaning they're going to criticize the integrity of the investigation. What do I tell you? When in doubt, blame the police. It's the police's fault. It's not our client's fault. It's the police's fault. In other news, Aiden Turtleboy Carney, if you don't know who that is, he's the blogger who really pushed forward Karen Reed's innocence fraud campaign, got found not guilty, even of violating a restraining order, even though he was caught on tape essentially doing it. He wisely chose a bench trial, meaning the judge decided, not a jury. And there it goes. I don't know. I don't know what to say other than, if you're a judge, either the judge has a relationship with the defense lawyer, Aiden Carney's defense lawyer, and that's why they went that route. And so the trial was kind of a farce. Okay, so that's getting kind of conspiratorial. Or more likely, the judge thought this is such a minor kind of crime that he's going to give him a break, and partially doesn't want the harassment. Who wants the harassment? If you get a jury verdict, it's really hard to harass an entire jury and get, your team of turtle riders to go after them. But it's a lot easier to harass one person, right? That's kind of where I'm at. And what I've been saying all along about the Karen Reed trial and my skepticism or my nervousness about, what we've seen, I think, at least people on this side of the fence feel like we've seen beyond reasonable doubt proof that this woman killed John O'Keefe with her car, going 24 miles an hour in reverse at a 75% throttle, meaning her foot 75% down on the gas pedal, or 74.5 if you want to be specific about it. With her infotainment system beeping and flashing at her, telling her she was going to hit something. Really important part of the case that I didn't feel was very stressed was that infotainment system that beeps and flashes and tells you you're going to hit something. Karen Reed herself, her own witnesses, says she wasn't that drunk that night. No one says she was that drunk even the next morning. Police officers who are trained to look for drunkenness, no one said, oh, she was so drunk. What does that tell you? Karen Reed, liquor doesn't touch the sides. Old-fashioned way of saying it. Karen Reed can hold her liquor. So, she's technically drunk. Shouldn't have been driving a car. So, I would not be surprised. So when I talk about innocence fraud, and here's where my skepticism about just being like, oh, we're going right into this is what's holding me back from saying we're going right into a guilty verdict of something. Because once you involve innocence fraud, it doesn't matter. Truth doesn't matter anymore. We're in an alternative universe. I can't even express it anymore. So what you've seen, it's like being ultimately gaslighted. What you've seen, what you know to be true, everyone, including our media, is telling us, oh yeah, it was an iffy. They were telling us last trial was an iffy trial. Like, oh, borderline case, don't know. It was really like up in the air. Even people on this side of the fence, I've heard them say it was like a really iffy trial. What do you call microscopic pieces of taillight in John O'Keefe's shirt? What do you call that? What do you call, how many witnesses did we have last trial saying I hit him, I hit him, I hit him? Can you put the pieces together? DNA on the back of the taillight, on the taillight pieces? Come on. This time, even her own witnesses are showing a demonstration that looks awfully a lot like the Commonwealth's case, but we don't know. If we have a free Karen Reader on the jury, or more than one, we're going for a hung jury. If we have a jury that's been tainted by Karen Reed's innocence fraud campaign, meaning they have consumed a lot of this media, and what worries me is that they're so fed up and done with it. Meaning, are they still, if they're fed up and done, are they sticking by the court's rulings to not look at the media, to not talk about this case amongst themselves? Last time we found out the jurors were talking amongst themselves. So I don't know. I don't know which way it's going to go. I've never felt more uncertain about a verdict in my life. I've listened to everyone who says, I was listening to Julie Grant's show this morning, and they had two lawyers on, but they were kind of laughing at the anti-free Karen Reader on the panel, it's an innocence fraud campaign. That's essentially what they were saying. They're like, but the media, but the entire world is rooting, essentially, except for our tiny corner of the world is rooting for her to get off. Anyway, that's what I'd like to say about it. Why I wasn't surprised. And I've been saying, I'm not convinced that Aidan Carney's going to get convicted of any of these witness harassment charges, or is going to do any real jail time or prison time. So what's on the line is really only the integrity of our justice system. So what I mean by that is, if Karen Reed gets a full acquittal, and I think that's certainly, on the table, I would find it hard to believe 12 jurors would all agree to that. I would think a hung jury would be more, likely. But if she gets a full acquittal, and even if not, we're going to see more of these pre-trial innocence fraud campaigns. And if your family or your loved one is a victim of crime, it only takes, a psychopath's innocence fraud campaign to uproot justice. More well-moneyed defendants and and poor defendants, if they can gather the money, will put on this kind of PR innocence fraud campaign and re-victimize the victims' families. And we may see more witness harassment campaigns and more turtle boys. I mean, look at the way that they have profited from this. Can't tell you the money. It's like an endless money stream on that side of the fence. So you can't separate the innocence fraud campaign from the witness harassment campaign. It's all for one purpose. And that one purpose is to get Karen Read out of facing responsibility for her crime, facing justice. And to our media, what a shame you bring to yourselves, your family name, the human race. Sorry to be a downer. I mean, promoting this cruel innocence fraud campaign of a murderer. I mean, it's not pro-justice. It's anti-justice. It's pro-death. It's pro-murder, pro-cruelty. Shame on you. So how do I think it's going to go tomorrow? Well, we got a glimpse of it today, and I want to cut to that. First, I want to cut to Karen Read and how she felt. She felt she put on a more robust, as she says, that's her words, more, she felt her defense was better in this trial than it was last trial. So what does that say? The prosecution might have been better. I don't know. I thought Adam Lally was pretty good, except for the opening and closing statements. He's pretty good with those cross-examinations. Let's look at what she has to say.
Was there confusion? Did you guys rest or not rest, or what? Are you ready for closings?
He was terrific, as always. Honest and stood by his analysis and just answered truthfully.
Are you ready for closings?
I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Why 90 minutes? What can we expect to hear?
Oh, wait. I have something about Andrew Rentschler. Someone sent me this reminder. I'd shown this photo a while back, and I was like, where is that photo? Hold on, let me send it to myself so I can pick it up. Hold on 1 second, and I'll show it to you. 1 minute, guys. Please hold. Why I didn't think of this before, I don't know. I just want to show you this because she's saying that he just stuck to the truth. I'm debunking Karen Read. That's why. I'm debunking Karen Read. She says Rentschler just stuck by the truth and he was oh so wonderful, et cetera, et cetera. And I say, Karen Read, your witness lied. And here's why. Check this out. Who's that? Is he in the corner eating a ham sandwich? Or is that Dr. Andrew Rentschler talking to Karen Read's father in the back there? So ignore the front, go right into the background there. So for those listening on podcast, there is Andrew Rentschler talking to Karen Read's father at where he said he sat in the corner with his dunce cap. He didn't say dunce cap, I did. And ate a ham sandwich all alone. Yeah, all alone. Didn't talk to anyone and left and waited for his car and left. That will show you what a major league liar he is. What's that? Is that a corner? Is that a ham sandwich? Or did a ham sandwich turn into Karen Read's father? Did it metamorphosize into Karen Read's father? And he was like, wow, eating his ham sandwich, and then it turned into Karen Read's father. And then he decided to have a discussion. Is that what happened? Andrew Rentschler, what a liar you are. A liar for a killer. What a disgusting human being.
All the facts, all the truth. everything that went wrong with their case.
What do you make the prosecution not calling any rebuttal witnesses?
They don't have any analysis and they don't have any facts to present through Dr. Welcher, so they're done.
Karen,
What do you want the jury?
How many days was Dr. Welcher on the stand? That's a lot of not facts to present if they didn't have any facts to present. I love when they say there's no evidence against her. We're on day 33 of her trial. Tomorrow's day 33. Wow. Commonwealth took a long time to present no evidence, didn't they?
You had said before you have butterflies at this stage. Are you
I do.
feeling those?
Yeah, of course.
You think your case is stronger this time?
I thought it was strong last year. It's stronger. Yes, we just called more witnesses and laid out more of the case.
What do you
It
feel
feels
about the
strong.
jury?
We just got more hired guns. We just got more liars for our side. Jen B, thanks for becoming a member and supporting the stream. These streams are supported by you. So thank you very much. Allow me to do a lot of cool stuff this time, like Karen Cam. That was all you guys. So thank you. Appreciate it. Back to Karen Reed.
I feel good about the jury. Yeah, we selected them. I was there. I took part in it, and we chose fair and truthful, civic-minded citizens of Norfolk County.
What do you
So I
want
feel
the
good.
jurors to know as they go get their instructions?
I just hope they were listening. That's all I can ask for. They were in the same room I was for the last, I don't know how many days that was. 33 days.
31.
Yeah, let me see if I can influence the jury and speak directly to them. I hope they're listening. This is why she does this, is to get to the jury.
We saw play out in the last trial regarding the verdict forms and what we now know that the jury found.
No, we don't know that. We don't know that. That's a lot of nonsense. I saw those jury forms. I'm not convinced that the jury was confused on the jury forms. You know who disagreed? Every court that's looked at that. Jury forms being so confusing. It was the jury forms that the defense wanted, by the way, P.S. demanded.
Unanimously came to a conclusion. What are your concerns going into it this time around?
They had a different jury form on each charge, guilty or not guilty. It was not confusing. This is the other thing they're running with before. I don't know if they're nervous that Karen Reed's going to get convicted or what, but this is what the press has been running with, these jury form nonsense.
Obviously, after what happened in the first trial and what we heard from the jurors that came forward, we just have to have an even keener eye on the verdict form and the jury instructions.
Okay, guys, here we go.
We have to even get more of what we want. More of what we want. Last year, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to get everything we wanted last year. Hey, Allison. Hey, My Father's Alibi. Great channel. Check it out. Ski. So excuse me for being a little over it. Little bit over it with all this Karen Reed nonsense. So let me show you. So what do I think it's going to be like tomorrow? So I think the defense goes first. So I'll start with the defense. I think that their closing argument is going to end. It's going to sound a lot like this, which is what we heard from David Yannetti, although Alan Jackson's going to do it. So he's going to do it with a lot of drama. I think he's going to ask jurors to put themselves in Karen Reed's place, that if you wouldn't trust your life on a disgraced Trooper Proctor because of his mean texts, and another thing that had nothing to do with the case, that if you wouldn't bet your life on it, don't bet Karen Reed's life. They used to love to say their life, even though their life is not on the table. So here it is. Here's David Yannetti saying that they I don't know what they struck through the heart of the state. They struck a stake through the heart of the state's case, something like that today in the jury charge conference, asking for a directed not guilty verdict for Karen Reed. Spoiler alert, it was denied.
Take your time.
Thank you. We are renewing our motion for required finding of not guilty at the close of all the evidence, and in so doing, Your Honor, we're incorporating our oral argument in support of this motion that we made at the close of the Commonwealth case. At that juncture, Your Honor, the Commonwealth had produced no witnesses to testify that John O'Keefe's injuries were consistent with his having been hit by a motor vehicle, and if he was not hit by a motor vehicle, none of these three indictments may stand. The Commonwealth, we believe, at that time fell woefully short of proving their case. Now that the defense...
So here's Yannetti echoing, this is the jury's refrain this time. No collision, no collision, no collision. And we've got experts up on the stand to say no collision, even though they got the ARCA witnesses say every accident is different, that you need the coordinates to really do these tests properly. They just said no collision. And then they had these like wild doctors on the stand. One medical examiner, one disgraced medical examiner from Rhode Island, Dr. LaPasada, who, according to the federal investigation into the station nightclub fire, she was called for 17 hours onto the scene. She herself said on the stand that she was on call 24 hours a day as her job as the Rhode Island medical examiner. And she kept writing, on my way, on my way. She had her underling there, and she said she had to tend to her office work. And it wasn't important that they just had one of the worst fires in American history in Rhode Island, that she didn't need to get on the scene till 17 hours later, right when the press conference was happening, strangely. That's the kind of woman she is. And then we had, of course, the attention-seeking true crime fan herself, Dr. Marie Russell, who's written one or two papers on police dog bite and hold technique, which is not at issue here. I don't really understand why even Judge Cannoni allowed her to be a witness in this case, but okay. He calls her, Yannetti in this speech, one of the premier experts, but she's never testified in any other trial about dog bites.
Has put on a case. The Commonwealth's case has been further weakened, such that none of these charges can stand. Nearly every witness, Your Honor, we would submit has destroyed the Commonwealth's theory of the case. Dr. Russell testified for the defense. She's a leading expert on dog bite wound pattern recognition in the country, and she testified about medical injury causation and provided the jury with her expert opinion that John O'Keefe's injuries were consistent with dog-inflicted wounds, both bites and scratches. I would remind the court at this juncture that there was a dog at the very residence where John O'Keefe was found, a dog which was a longtime member of the family, which the family gave away after John O'Keefe's death. A dog which mysteriously was absent from the home at 6:30 in the morning on January 29th, when Jennifer McCabe claimed that she...
What suburban area doesn't have a dog in a certain mile radius? You know? America loves dogs. Probably, I know there's more cats than dogs, but still, they couldn't blame it on a cat attack. They would if they could. Are we supposed to think, because Dr. LaPasada, this is who I'm talking about, the station fire, Rhode Island medical examiner, are we supposed to think that John O'Keefe got attacked by a bear? She's like, he was knocked down with medium to large force and then attacked by an animal. Is that what we're supposed to think? Are these bear claw marks? She didn't say dog. She wasn't allowed to say dog, but she would have if she could have. I mean, she's right. Those who said in the chat that she hasn't worked in years, and neither has Marie Russell. They're basically hired guns for the defense. And it's no surprise that Hank Brennan has used her. I don't know. There's a dispute how many times and what cases. I don't know. But of course, they'd be useful if you have a guilty client and you're a defense attorney. She would be useful. I love the way the free Karen readers say that, like that's Simone. But Hank Brennan used her, so you think, no, Hank Brennan, yeah, as a defense attorney, with probably a pretty guilty client. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about? Please hit the thumbs up on your way in, guys. Let's get this algorithm moving.
Burst into Brian Albert's bedroom where the dog always slept. A dog which was absent from the home when the Canton police entered the home later that morning. Importantly, Dr. Russell agreed with the Commonwealth's medical examiner, Dr. Schoeneman-Dilley, that John O'Keefe suffered no injuries that were consistent with having been in a motor vehicle collision. And again, if there's no collision, there's no case. Dr. Lopesada, one of the most experienced and accomplished forensic pathologists you could find anywhere, agreed with Dr. Russell that John O'Keefe's injuries were consistent with an animal attack. And she agreed with both Dr. Russell and the Commonwealth's expert, Dr. Schoeneman-Dilley.
The Commonwealth's exit. The Commonwealth just exited on hearing this nonsense soliloquy by Yadetti.
Was not hit by a motor vehicle. So the question is, in what?
JMS says John DePietro is predicting murder too. I heard him today. I heard him. He's been in the courtroom. He thinks the jurors, he thinks it's a good sign that Hank Brennan is not doing a rebuttal. He thinks that's all a good sign. He thinks he's reading the jury, that they're done. They've kind of made up their minds. I hope so. I love the way Karen Reed is spinning it. It means that they have no facts to present. Give me a break.
What type of murder case would a judge ever allow a motion for required finding of not guilty? In a murder case where expert testimony on both sides is that the evidence is inconsistent completely with the Commonwealth's theory of the case, that's exactly what we have here. But it doesn't stop there.
He said Schoeneman-Dilley said that it was impossible that this was a car accident. I didn't hear that. I heard that testimony. Irene Schoeneman-Dilley, medical examiner in this case. I heard that, but I heard a testimony. I didn't hear that.
They're both witnesses from ARCA, drove a stake through the heart of the Commonwealth's case. Dr. Wolf concluded that the damage to Ms. Reed's Lexus was inconsistent with having come from a collision with John O'Keefe. Unlike Dr. Welcher, who created, we would submit, a meaningless experiment based on no scientific method, Dr. Welcher.
Myrna says that, thank you, that Karen Reed is the animal. She sure is. That attacked John. Sure is. I mean, I think this is like premeditated murder, in my opinion. What do you call like moving your wheel like into him at the last minute? I mean, she knew what she did. She gathered up. I mean, she started covering up her case. I hope that Hank Brennan talks about that tomorrow, why she gathered, corralled together witnesses to pretend to find John. And she knew right where he was. She led them right to him, but she didn't call 911. When you have an accident and you didn't mean to do it, you stop, you look at your car, you look at the person, you call 911. You don't zip from the scene. Or you call someone else if you're drunk and you want to get out of, and say, something happened to John. Can you check out your front yard? I think she looked at him and knew that she had killed him at that moment. I do. Why did she keep saying, is he dead? Is he dead? She knew he was dead. It's like, did I hit him? I hit him. Did I hit him? I hit him. Did I hit him? Could I have clipped him? She clipped him. She knew he was dead. He didn't look mortally wounded. That's like a confession in the negative. She went out and she looked. This is my opinion. This is where I'm at. And looked, and she saw he was dead. And then she started making phone calls. Because her anger wasn't fully expressed. So she had to tell him she hated him and he was a pervert, et cetera, et cetera. That's where I'm at. Let me know what you think.
Actually did the proper force analysis and concluded that Ms. Reed's Lexus was not damaged by the body or the arm of John O'Keefe. His testimony was unimpacted by cross-examination, and it's devastating to the Commonwealth's case. Dr. Rentschler further cemented that there was no collision.
Dr. Rentschler, who's hanging out partying with the defense and getting updates on the case from the feds. So why were the feds feeding Dr. Rentschler information if that was such an independent investigation? Why did they even hire someone like him? And why didn't they ask the Commonwealth to hand over all the evidence they had to ARCA if the federal investigation was so independent? Kit Kat says, I wonder how the jury will be deciding the case. I don't know. If they go into a lot of like, well, why would she start making calls? That's why I wish that we had heard some more like psychology. I would tell them if I were the jury, I wouldn't want to be a juror in this case. And couldn't be, because I have a strong opinion and I know a lot about it. But, let's talk about why did she, there was no need for her to get Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts involved. Why did she get them involved? I'll tell you why she got them involved. Because without getting other people involved, there's no one else to point the finger at but her. She's the last person who saw John. It's her taillight pieces. She has to make the 911 call, etc. Now she's got all these other people. Well, maybe Jen McCabe did it. She made the 911 call. She was at the house where Karen, quote unquote, dropped him off before running him over. So he never made it into the house, but never mind that. Get a lot of people, mix it all up, create confusion, create doubt, mix in a lot of characters. That's why she did it. And why did she call him? For the cover up. She knew that the nephew was at a friend's house. Your kids are here asleep. No, they're not. There's just one. Kaylee, just one, just her. That's it. And what does Kaylee say? I mean, I'll get into that when I go through Hank Brennan's closing argument, but Kaylee's a major witness that we didn't hear from, and we got very poor reporting on for the most part.
Between the Lexus and John O'Keefe.
Very poor reporting on her testimony.
It is Rentschler further cemented that there was no collision between the Lexus and John O'Keefe. It is simply not possible that this 6,000-pound SUV hit John O'Keefe at 24 miles an hour and caused only superficial wounds to his right arm with no injuries to his legs or lower body. The SUV did not hit him. John O'Keefe was not hit by the SUV. The case is over. But on top of all that scientific evidence, Your Honor, there were 3 additional fact witnesses who testified for the defense who corroborated that the Commonwealth's theory of the case is false. Sergeant Nicholas Barrows, a sworn police officer, testified that when he saw Ms. Reed's SUV that day, before it was towed to the Canton Police Sally Port, the taillight was merely cracked.
It was in the same condition as it was in the Sally Port. Smashed to smithereens, essentially. You want to call it cracked? Some of it was still there, but it was pretty much smashed to smithereens. Okay, let's be honest. And that guy looked like caught in the headlights. Scared out of his mind testifying under oath. JMS, thanks for the super sticker. I'm wondering if he saw a picture where the taillight was totally removed. And he was like, yeah, that wasn't the condition I saw it in. And he told them that. And then he got sort of bullied into testifying that it was in a more cracked condition. So what I want to know, and this is what, if I were Hank Brennan, I would hammer home the pieces of taillight in John O'Keefe's shirt that are microscopic. The biggest one is a piece of rice. How do you plant that? How do you plant it? How do you plant that evidence? And how do you even get a hold of the taillight pieces when the CERT team has arrived? The car is already on the way to the Sally Port. There's absolutely, the timeline does not fit any kind of framing of Karen Read.
When he was shown photos of what it looked like in the Sally Port after Michael Proctor had access to it, Sergeant Barrows confirmed that it was absolutely different. Karina Kolakithis confirmed that there were no problems between Karen and John O'Keefe that night, even remarking on just how sweet he kissed her on the forehead shortly before they left the waterfall. But perhaps more importantly,
Yeah, Karina Kalakithis, what a snake in the grass that woman is. So she was friends. This is Karina Kalakithis, who is married to a lawyer who also testified in the first trial. Originally, she told police that Karen Read was complaining about John's family and how they should be doing more with the kids that night. Somehow that testimony disintegrated till they were lovey-dovey last trial, and to this trial we have a new memory, a kiss on the forehead, and they were lovey-dovey. You know, they were no problems. It's like her testimony about what actually happened that night, Karen Read complaining about John and his family, has now vanished into thin air, because she has become friends with Karen Read. And betrayed the memory of her friendship with John O'Keefe, and is happy to re-victimize his family. To be part, we saw her husband congratulate Turtle Boy on camera. I played that clip a while back. So what a snake in the grass. Karina Kalakithis, nominate you for the Wall of Shame, the Roberta Glass Wall of Shame. Shame on you. What a disgusting human being you are.
This happened right in front of Brian Higgins, the same Brian Higgins who had been flirting with Karen Read that month, the same Brian Higgins whom Karen had ghosted for several days before January 28th, the same Brian Higgins who had texted Karen that very night, well, and received no.
The interviews weren't good. I hope some jurors wrote them down in their notebooks. Kit Kat, Quinn Brown, thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate it.
Response, the same Brian Higgins whom Karen had given her back to all night, the same Brian Higgins who had to be restrained at the end of the night by Chris Albert on video, the same Brian Alberts who is on video, hot, angry. I meant Higgins, yes. Yeah, the same Brian Higgins, who is on video, hot, angry, and gesturing to John O'Keefe to meet him outside shortly before they left the waterfall and shortly before John O'Keefe.
Her own defense attorney can't remember who they're trying to pin this on. He's gaffing and blaming it on someone else. No, that was last year. You're in last year, Unetti. You're in last year. They moved on to Brian Higgins this year. Last year it was the Alberts, the McAlberts were the big bad boogeymen and women. This year it's maybe Jen McCabe was a quarterback, maybe one day, but not really. Just kidding. It's really Brian Higgins because he moved the cars in the police precinct that night. Because there was the seventh biggest snowstorm, blizzard hitting Massachusetts.
Finally, Brian Loughran, plowing Fairview Road at 2:45 in the morning, was attentive, watching everything in front of him, very familiar with the Alberts residence, and had every reason to protect the Albert family. You recall that he did protect the Albert family to a degree that night by choosing not to follow protocol and call the DPW or the police about the Ford Edge parked on the street outside their property during a snow emergency. Brian Loughran confirmed that John O'Keefe was not on the front lawn at the Albert residence at 2:45 a.m. That means that Karen did not hit him. There was no collision. All the experts agree on that, including the Commonwealth's expert, and the only eyewitness that morning confirms it. Taking the evidence in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth at this juncture, with their evidence weakened by an airtight defense to these charges, these indictments cannot stand, and we urge this court to enter required findings of not guilty on all three indictments.
I don't think this is going to look much like the Commonwealth's closing argument, but I think it's worth playing. Here's Adam Lally for the Commonwealth.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth requests that the defendant's motion for required finding not guilty at this juncture, as it was at the close of the Commonwealth's case, be denied. The state of the evidence is not dramatically changed since the Commonwealth rested its case in chief. Counsel makes reference to dog or canine. I would remind the court that there is absolutely no evidence, none, not even a scintilla of evidence of a dog. There is no evidence of an absence of a dog. You have Ms. McCabe testifying that she didn't see it in the morning, which does not equate to there being an absence of a dog there.
Right. You're like, where was the dog? Jen McCabe didn't see it when she went into her brother's room. Well, wait. Just because she didn't see it didn't mean it wasn't there. I mean, they start these little minor melodramas.
The arguments from counsel of the Commonwealth would suggest grossly exaggerates the strength of the defense witnesses in their case. The bias and advocacy exhibited by those witnesses from that witness stand do not amount to credible witness testimony that undermine the Commonwealth's case in any way, shape, or form. A couple of specific examples when it came to Officer Barros. His testimony was also that the cruiser camera footage from 8:22 in the morning at the driveway at One Meadows Ave, he indicated the damage to the taillight was consistent with the damage that he observed in the driveway at the defendant's parents' home, which was then consistent from the video or the photographs within the Sally Port. It's also consistent with 5:07 a.m. at One Meadows Ave on the still frame shots.
Right. Great job, Officer Barros. Great job. So I don't know how that helps them.
From that ring camera video. Essentially, the Commonwealth would submit that the defense witnesses all conflict with each other. You have a couple witnesses testifying about dog or animal bites. Then you have the ARCA witnesses testifying about superficial abrasions. You have Dr. La Posada talking about the drop in body temperature.
Why that's important, and I talked about this when I was on with Julie Grant yesterday. Was that yesterday? God, it feels like so long ago. Was that yesterday? I think that was yesterday. When I was on with her, I was talking. She was asking me about. They made a big deal about saying these were abrasions, not lacerations. Well, dogs don't play bite. They bite deep. Let me tell you, they bite deep. For someone who had to wait 8 hours for a woman to finish getting a facelift, to get their face reconstructed, 6 years old after a dog bite, meaning me, I will tell you, these dogs can rip open. You know, they bite deep. They're not like playing. They're not like, just like touching the surface when they bite. They bite deep. I mean, it's the biggest joke in the world, these dog bite things. And there's no dog DNA too.
Sure, which conflicts with
no dog hair either, by the way. And as someone who walks around with cat hair half the year from my cats, let me tell you, dog Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Where did I leave you? Yeah, I lost you. I know StreamYard has been really crazy today. Cat hair? Cat hair? Okay. Thank you for Maestro. So let me go back. So he was talking about Lucky Loughran. Did you guys hear Lucky Loughran part? Okay, we'll go back. We'll go back. Yeah, it's been really, I didn't know if I was going to be able to do this stream. It was wonky this morning, StreamYard. Then it went down totally. And then it got back up. And, it's just been a little, what can I say? Not great all day. So let me go back in time when he's talking about Lucky Loughran. Hopefully, I'm not exactly sure where it is, but it can't be that far.
Do not amount to credible witness testimony that undermined the Commonwealth's case in any way, shape, or form. A couple of specific examples when it came to Officer Barros. His testimony was also that the cruiser camera footage from 8:22 in the morning at the driveway at One Meadows Ave, he indicated the damage to the taillight was consistent with the damage that he observed in the driveway at the defendant's parents' home, which was then consistent from the video or the photographs within the Sally port. It's also consistent with 5:07 a.m. at One Meadows Ave on the still frame shots.
Hey, cue to the chase. I have a question for you. Saying, since you want Brennan to face censure for the actions with the hoodie, for making that mistake, and I agree with you, it sucked. It sucked for us. Nobody wants that kind of mistake to go on in a trial. But what do you think the defense should get for lying for over a year to the first jury about the ARCA witnesses being paid and retained and talked to? And what do you think the defense should get for putting up those pictures and orchestrating the witness harassment campaign? Let's not forget that. And putting up the pictures of John O'Keefe's arm bit by a dog for the jury, and a picture, they say, of Proctor that's not Proctor. What should happen to the defense? Just curious.
From that ring camera video. Essentially, the Commonwealth would submit that the defense witnesses all conflict with each other. You have a couple witnesses testifying about dog or animal bites. Then you have the ARCA witnesses testifying about superficial abrasions. You have Dr. LaPosada talking about the drop in body temperature, which conflicts with Mr. Loughran's testimony as far as.
Yeah, there is evidence. There's lots of calls between Turtle Boy and Yannetti and Jackson during the time of the most witness harassment. What do you think they were talking about? Don't you find it odd that they never said, call off the dogs? We don't want our team, our defense, to be confused with witness harassment, this witness harassment campaign that this blogger that our client talks to every day. They never said, we want a vigorous defense for our client, but no witness harassment. They never said that. They never publicly said, don't harass witnesses. Isn't that odd?
His confusion as far as the hours of.
But that you didn't answer the other two questions. What should happen for their lying to the jury about ARCA and putting up those and lying to the jury in those two pictures? What should happen to them?
Or claims to have driven by there and not seen a body. This is the same witness who is, I would submit, very confused on times, and then also backed into a basketball hoop during the course of his plow duties on that particular early morning as well. And as the court could see from the cruiser camera video, drove by the scene countless times, essentially rubbernecking it as he's going past doing his duties. Your Honor, what the Commonwealth would submit is that his case was more than sufficiently strong at the close of the evidence in his case in chief. There's been nothing presented in the defendant's case to diminish, particularly to the standards in the light most favorable to the Commonwealth, and we request that the defendant's motion be denied.
So here, I have a question about Lucky Loughran. So he talks about Lucky Loughran rubbernecking it. Was he rubbernecking it on that day? This is what I was asking when I got cut off. Was he rubbernecking it on that day? No, don't mess with me. Don't come into my stream and give me some free Karen Reed nonsense. I'm a fierce warrior. I'm a fierce warrior. Dealt with worse innocence fraud campaigns than Karen Reed, let me tell you. Carmel O'Reilly, maybe not worse. I don't know. This is up there. This is up there with one of the worst, let me tell you. It's up there with the Stephen Avery, Brendan Dassey people, let me tell you. Those people were very similar to the Karen Reed people. Thank you for the super sticker. Terry, thank you very much for the super sticker. But do you think he was rubbernecking it? Or do you think he was waiting and looking to see if he could go down that road to plow it? Is it cleared yet? Is it cleared yet? Is it cleared yet? Like, I want to do my job well. Is it cleared? Or was he rubbernecking it? Let me know what you think. I'm not sure he was rubbernecking, like they say. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. Rubbernecking, like, you know, looking at an accident, wanting to know, like, nosy, wanting to know what happened. That's what Hank Brennan has put out to the jury. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced. And Lucky Lawford couldn't identify his own vehicle, but it was kind of clear it was his own vehicle because there wasn't. I mean, this is such a blizzard. Nobody was really on the road but the plows. He said it could have been another plow, not his, but his truck is pretty clearly identifiable. If it wasn't his, I mean, what are the chances he was waiting till that road was clear enough that he could go down it? He's waiting. He's like going by it so many times so that he could go down it and plow it. I'm just not convinced it was like a, you know, a rubbernecking situation. I wasn't bought. That's one thing that Hank Brennan didn't sell me on. Manslaughter, sentenced to 8, serves 3, and media tour after. Okay, I don't know if I'll be happy that she serves any prison time, honestly, at this point with this innocence fraud campaign. I'll be happy with, you know, at this point, I won't be thrilled with manslaughter. I'll be thrilled with a second-degree murder conviction. That I will be thrilled with. We will have a party if it's a second-degree murder conviction. I don't know what I'll do for my audience, but we will have something big and fun. And I'm not even going to go there now, but it will be big and fun. I don't know what. Guess, whatever you want. I'm taking suggestions. And become staple for the Innocence Project. Apparently, my other friend who talks about this, Martin Pribe, check him out on Substack, the Crooked City Substack. He says that they're doing these pre-trial innocence fraud campaigns every day of the week in Chicago. I mean, that Chicago is really, there's no more innocence fraud anywhere in America more than Chicago. That is the innocence fraud capital of the United States. Melina, I mean, if you saw what happened with Juicy Smollett, that's par for the course in Chicago. Drop the charges. Then with the public outrage, gets a conviction, then serves no jail time, then gets his conviction overturned. I mean, that is Chicago. Melina Barry, thank you very much. I appreciate it. So how do I think it's going to go tomorrow? So I think Hank Brennan, we're going to hear a reprise of the follow the evidence line that he put out originally. I think he's going to talk about the data. He's going to talk about how John's cell phone data didn't move from the area, how the temperature on his cell phone dropped as he was left out there cruelly by Karen Reed. I think he's also going to talk about how John and Karen were breaking up how Kaylee, the niece, testified that John told Karen that the relationship had run its course. And John asked her to leave, Kaylee says twice, and Karen wouldn't leave. And how she used the kids when John went out for a break to clear his head, took a drive to clear his head. She said she called him and she said, you got to come back. The kids are worried about her. But the kids weren't worried about her. She was using the kids, weaponizing the kids. And his love for those kids against him. Hopefully he'll talk about how Karen's car data showed that she moved how she moved her car forward, then in reverse. And after moving her car in reverse, 24 miles an hour in reverse, with her foot 74.5% down on the gas pedal. I don't think he'll say this, but I'll say this. With her infotainment system beeping and flashing at her, telling her she was going to hit something. That right after she stopped moving her car in reverse, John's phone strangely stopped moving, and it never moved from that area. I think he's going to talk about how the taillight had John's DNA, the taillight pieces, how the taillight bumper had a hair consistent with John's hair, and DNA consistent with John's DNA on Karen Reed's bumper, and how microscopic pieces of taillight were found embedded in John O'Keefe's shirt. I would hope he would talk about how Karen, after hitting John, started her cover-up. I would hope that he would ask the jury to think about why she involved Carrie and Jen. Why did she need them? There was no need to call Carrie or Jen or anyone else. Why were so many people brought to the scene? Because she needed an audience to discover John. And strangely, she knew right where to find him. She's the only one who pointed him out, strangely like a buffalo in a prairie. That's what Karen Reed said. And I think he was going to play some of Karen Reed's own clips. I would hope in his closing. I mean, that's been the pattern, is let Karen Reed narrate her own murder trial. And I think that if we don't see clips in the closing, I'd be shocked. I may be shocked. I may be surprised. I would think we may see more clips or a reprise of clips tomorrow. Did I miss any of the serious evidence? I think he's going to ask them to look at the defense's own reenactment and how John turned and how he was knocked out of his shoe and how his shoe was found on the road and the glass and how he was carrying Karen, according to Karen Reed, he was carrying her glass and how pieces of that glass consistent with that glass were found on the scene. Follow the evidence, stick to the evidence. Don't listen to the defense noise. It's a lot of noise and a lot of distraction and a lot of hired guns. I am a relentless warrior, Trixie. Thank you very much. Roberta, a relentless warrior. I am. Just not putting up with any nonsense more of this nonsense. I mean, how dumb do you have to be? And it's not intelligence, because there's a lot of intelligence people who get bamboozled by an innocence fraud campaign. It's very convincing. They bring people who are experts. They appeal to authority. They use appeal to authority. They use the press. Our press wouldn't go along with this if there weren't something to it. Yes, they would. Yes, they would. They were promoting Stephen Avery's innocence. That guy can't be a more guilty guy in the world. And there's also a great piece by Innocence Fraud Watch, new piece out on Stephen Avery and his rape of Penny Bernstein that he confessed to in prison. Little known fact, There's been lots of innocence fraud to even make him look like he didn't do that crime, like he was wrongfully convicted the first time. So, and the weird issues with the hair that they found strangely matched the other guy who was going to always be in the first trial with Payne Bernstein's rape. There was a hair with a root bulb matching Gregory Allen found, when this was not a, there would be no way that would be even deposited on her or found at the scene. It's just bizarre. Almost, and we know that Gregory Allen was writing and in touch with the Innocence Project at this time, asking them to represent him. So I think that's a whole conspiracy of its own. You can go back to my interviews with Ken Kratz. He talks about it. He's very skeptical of, his first quote unquote exoneration. It would be very easy to move that hair into evidence. It was never even established as to the chain of custody, et cetera, et cetera. He was just rubber stamped out of prison. So, yes, the defense goes first tomorrow because the Commonwealth has the burden, which is the highest in the land. Beyond a reasonable doubt, they go second. They're going to be limited to an hour, but Jackson wants to go an hour and a half. Please no. I think he's going to shout and stalk. I think it's going to go a lot. You know what I think is going to happen tomorrow? I think it's going to be, if I had to guess, I think Alan Jackson is going to be a lot like this tomorrow.
Criminal spout, legalese, lying by profession. When in doubt, blame the police.
That's what I think it's going to be like tomorrow. I think it's going to be, when in doubt, blame the police. They're going to be hammering home this poor, bad investigation. They should have walled off the crime scene in a blizzard in a 50-mile radius with crime scene tape, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, Heyman Lee, that's also another one. Julius Jones. I've done so many. The Owl Story Simon Anthony Porter case is the biggest, where the Innocence Project actually framed an innocent man and got him to falsely confess in order to free a guilty one, Anthony Porter, in Chicago. Anybody seen the Murder in the Park documentary or read Martin Pribe's book, Crooked City? Or William Crawford's book on it? Excellent. That's key. I mean, there's been so many. I mean, it's just a huge right now. Innocence fraud is huge. I mean, it's almost impossible to have one of the few true crime channels that haven't gotten into any of it. it's like you almost have to get into a little of it to be popular. I just refuse. All of it is very bad, evil, wrong, whatever you want to say. To me, it's just pro death, pro murderer, really dangerous movement that's taking over our country, and it's really hard to stop because it's making so many people. It's making people in Hollywood a lot of money. It's making people in our press a lot of money. And it's making lawyers very rich. And it's very hard to stop. And no one wants to speak out because there's lawyers involved. So how do they get rich? That's a really good question. So they get rich off the books, off the documentaries, and then mostly it's the civil case money. So they sue civilly for wrongful conviction or wrongful arrest, which is Karen Reed. If Karen Reed gets acquitted tomorrow or Monday or next Tuesday, her next move will be to sue Michael Proctor, the police, the state of Massachusetts for wrongful arrest, wrongful retention, etc. And often they get multi-million-dollar payouts because it's sometimes the police very early on were like, oh, it's going to be more expensive to fight this than to just pay it off with our insurance. So they were paying off these. And they're like pigeons. They just come back for more. So once you start feeding them, yeah, it's crazy. So, anytime you hear about, a conviction that's, wrongful conviction, man gets 22 million, 10 million, 12 million after 34 years, 24 years in prison, I would ask you to be very skeptical and go to the original trial transcripts before passing judgment on guilt or innocence. Because what I found is 99.9% of those people are guilty and have been gotten out with some real bamboozlement of our court. I don't even know if that's a word, bamboozlement. So, yeah. Alec Baldwin. Yeah, that was some fancy lawyering. I got in big trouble. That was my most popular tweet, Matt. I said that, I think I got community noted on that. I said that was some fancy lawyering with Alec Baldwin, because I don't really think it would have been all that exonerating. I don't think so. Yeah, bamboozlement. Yeah, my new word. Yeah, it is massive, Carmel. Massive, massive, massive in this country. So I would not suggest, if I were you, my advice is not to give your money to any kind of wrongful conviction movement, charity. I don't know how we're going to stop this movement. I don't know. I mean, we've already had, they've had massive scandals. They've had reoffenses. And what was the most interesting thing? I'm going to end on this. What was the most interesting thing to me about listening to Aidan Carney's trial today was his lawyer saying that Aidan Carney was suffering from post-traumatic stress from his whole entanglement with the law. And this is the new innocence fraud line. So when one of their clients, so someone they get out, reoffends, they will say they don't want you to think, because the natural thing to think when someone gets out and is quote unquote wrongly convicted of murder the first time, right? And then murders again, your natural inclination is to go, well, what about the first time? That seems like that guy probably did it, huh? So they don't want you to think that. Now the new thing to do, they did this also with the guy on Joe Rogan, Sheldon Johnson, who they said was guilty. So it was a little different. It's a little twist that Joe Rogan, the biggest innocence fraudster, pusher, said that it was like a wonderment of, it was a wonder of rehabilitation. And they had reduced his sentence and gotten him out way early, And they said that the reason he killed, like 4 weeks after being on Joe Rogan, he killed his friend and dismembered his body And half of the body was found in Sheldon Johnson's apartment, and half of it was found in the victim's apartment. And he was walking in and out of the apartment in disguises, including a blonde wig and glasses. So instead of Joe Rogan saying, wow, maybe I'm promoting, killers and lionizing murderers on this thing, he just laughed about it and said it was an unfortunate incident happened, and that he probably had, the way they spun it was that he had PTSD. They did this with another offender that I also covered on this channel, who was trying to push a cop into traffic on a traffic stop, and was trying to basically murder a cop, and the cop had to kill him to defend himself. They said he had post-traumatic stress. He thought he was going to be wrongfully convicted again. So that's what they're going. They're going with this new PTSD, like Aidan Carney, the psychopath, has any post-traumatic stress disorder. Give me a break. All right. So, yeah, he did. He sure did. He was the Innocence Project ambassador, Josh Dubin. And these people are dark personalities themselves, I think. Psychopaths. And they have no problem getting, making their fortune. There's so much money to be had. Private planes, et cetera, to be had on that side of the fence. Jenny, you know about this? It's so true. It is true, right? So now they're going with post-traumatic stress. So I found that interesting that they were putting that now with psychopathic Aidan Carney. And he's really just has too many feelings. He doesn't have any, he's totally lacks empathy. It's that he has too many feelings, that he's suffering from post-traumatic stress. So hopefully I'll be wrong and he'll do some prison time, but I don't see it. I mean, that's my prediction. I don't see him doing any prison time, not in Massachusetts, but we'll see. It was the weakest of the cases. He was caught on film, though, Maestro. He was on film doing it. I mean, technically, he was doing it. I mean, we'll see. I feel bad shout out to Lindsay Gattani. I hope, stay strong, sister. I know my name came up in it. They brought my name up. I haven't heard it. If you have the clip, send it to me. My email address is always in my about section of my YouTube channel. Thanks to everyone who sent me messages. I've been getting a lot of messages from you all. I try to write you all back. Want to thank, before I go, I think I have some people to thank. Hold on one second. One hot minute. Can you guys wait? Kimberly Gordon, Ginger Rutledge, someone, M Skate, for buying me a coffee. Want to thank Shelly Flynn for the Venmo. Thank you very much. Please support the channel. This channel does not work without you. Links are in the description of this episode. You can send a donation via Venmo, buy me a coffee, or become a Patreon member. All great ways to support the channel. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:40 at the latest. I'll be on. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks so much for listening.
I hit my boyfriend with my car. It wasn't an accident. But with lying lawyers, I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim. Carry, system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money, truth is my second victim.